Are you efforting, struggling, thriving, or fooling yourself? Now, when I ask that question, I want you to think about 5 different areas. I want you to think about your finances. And are you working hard? Are you struggling? Are you working hard to be like an efforting? Are you struggling? Are you thriving? Or are you just fooling yourself and you just really like try to bury your head in the sand? Same thing with your health. And the same thing with your relationships, your friendships, your professional relationships, your business relationships, your neighbors and relatives. And the same thing with your love life and your sex life. Are you efforting? Are you struggling? Are you thriving? Or are you really fooling yourself? So in getting into this discussion tonight, we have a different kind of a setup. You see I've got the chair here next to me. And I'm going to ask Kathy to come and sit with me. She kind of gets the camera started for me when I'm using my actual camera, my movie camera, and not my cell phone. And so this is my partner, Kathy.
Hello.
And what we're going to do, because sometimes, we get into just great conversation. Now, this is not pre-rehearsed. We are totally flying, doing this raw here. But we get into just really amazing conversations. And as I got to thinking about this topic and all, and I've been thinking about this topic for the last 2 days and making a video. And as I thought, this is because we have these kind of conversations all the time about these topics. And so I just thought it'd be really a good way to kind of make this video is for us just to have a conversation. And literally, I came home half hour ago, and maybe 45 minutes ago, and I told Kathy, I says, I'd like to do the video a little differently today, and I said I'd like to have a conversation with you in it with me. So this is not even, she didn't even know what the topic was until I told all of you. And so go ahead then, Kathy, and in talking about this, I talk in my videos, I talk a lot about energy and vibration, our energy levels, talk about negativity, and we learn a lot and talk a lot about attraction as well, the power of attraction. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this conversation. Okay. But one of the things I wanted to touch, that I got to thinking about, is how in my last marriage, for 25 years, I was efforting.
As was I, tremendously, and fooling myself.
and I was efforting, and it was, and I was struggling as well. It's kind of combination, efforting and struggling. I was not thriving, and yes, I was fooling myself too. Yeah. But and so we celebrated an anniversary this week, and and our relationship got off to a soaring start, and then for about 6 months it was a little shaky, because so there were some changes that you brought into the relationship, and it was really, I found it very difficult to deal with. But I'm someone who has always tried to working through things, and so that's what we did, and we approached it. We're going to work through this, right? And we were just going to plow through it.
Yeah.
And
which didn't feel good.
No, it didn't.
It not on either one of our parts. And so that's part of that efforting piece, is as you are approaching something, it could be something negative or even something positive. If you are having to do a lot of work and a lot of processing for things, that's not always a bad thing, but it's really how you approach it, and how, if you're trying to make something happen, that's where the effort comes.
Yeah, and you're right, it did not feel good. At that time, we hadn't really grown like we have in the last couple of years, and we hadn't grown, we didn't even understand how our internal GPSs work, and that
Right.
when we have negative feelings, those are really telling us that we're heading the wrong direction.
Right.
But yet, we just ended up doing the right thing, and doing the right thing is because that I saw that we were efforting and we were struggling, and I thought that, to be honest, I thought that if we just keep pushing and plowing forward, that one, that's not how I want to build our relationship, and two, I thought, that could cause our relationship to unravel, and so I just wanted to back off for a while. And remember, we were both into reading some books and talking heavily about these books and things, and you kind of wanted to spend a lot of time, like in conversation and talking about those things, and I just told you, I said, I'm not doing that right now.
Right.
And I guess that was the right thing, and I at the time didn't really think it was the right thing, didn't know it was the right thing. I just knew that I couldn't just keep pushing forward, and it didn't feel good.
Right.
And so we backed off.
We did. And we backed off for quite a while. And it honestly was the best decision that we could have made in moving our relationship forward. What we found through that backing off and through not talking about the situation and what was happening, we allowed that negative energy that we were experiencing to dissipate. And we continued to focus on the love that we shared, the connection that we shared, and that is what has moved us into the relationship that we now have.
Which is really an amazing relationship.
It is. And had we continued to push and to effort and to try to fix the problem by talking about it constantly, we probably would not be sitting here in Ventura, California together today.
And it was I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, something like that where after I had backed off, then we came into this concept of increasing your abundance, your liberation, and your freedom in your life. And that kind of became a focus for us then.
It did.
And it wasn't through then increasing the abundance, increasing the liberation and the freedom, wasn't through and is not through efforting. Moving here to Ventura, which a year ago, just 12 months ago, in fact, 10 months ago, we would have never told you we'd be living here in Ventura, California. And and it wasn't efforting that made that happen. It wasn't putting our head in the sand. It wasn't struggling.
No.
It just things started to happen and started to come together for us.
And I really attribute that to the fact that we were focusing on the positive aspects of our relationship, and we were allowing those negative feelings and negative pieces to calm down and dissipate, as I said, because as we've learned, what you give your energy to is what you receive back. And so the more that we gave attention to the negativity in our relationship, the more negativity was building. And when we stopped giving attention to the negativity and focused on the positive things, then more positivity started growing.
I remember in the first month of our relationship that your comment you just talked about, what you give your energy to is what comes back, and and that's so true. Even if what you give your energy to is doesn't feel good and is negative stuff, guess what? Then that's what comes back. Yeah. And I remember, because the way that I tried teaching it to you originally, this has been a philosophy of mine for a long time, and that is that what you feed gets fat and happy, and what you starve goes away. And the problem that many of us have, this what I was trying to teach you, and it was hard for you to understand that concept, is that the problem that many of us have is that we end up feeding the things that we want to go away. Right. And we end up starving the things that we really want in our lives.
Exactly.
And so that's just the wrong thing to do. And now we understand this concept of our internal GPS and our thoughts. Our internal GPS is, there's 3 factors that help us to be aware of of things in our life and where we're going and whether we're going in the right direction or not in the wrong direction. And that's our thoughts and our feelings and our words. And if those are in harmony in a positive way, and the feelings feel really good, and the words are really good, and the thoughts are really good, then yes, go in that direction and keep going in that direction. But then so like in our relationship, the feelings were really good, and the thoughts were really good, and the words were really good, until we got to where we had our struggle, and we needed to do the efforting.
Yeah.
And then it didn't feel good. We were trying to keep our thoughts positive. We were trying to keep our words positive, but it didn't feel good.
No, it didn't.
And so that was the indicator to kind of go a different way. Right. So that was how we've applied that with our relationship, But then financially, it's the same thing. We moved here to Ventura. Kathi is a professional in her field, and she was interviewing for jobs with a 6-figure income, and we thought that she would land a job when we were moving here. And she went to multiple interviews, and she applied for positions and what have you, And it's in one position right here in Ventura, in her dream job, came down to her and one other person, and then that job just didn't come through. And then you started to have some feelings and some thoughts about, even going to work with a 6-figure income and having a lot of responsibility and thriving in your professional life, so to speak.
Right.
But you started having some feelings about that. And so what happened with all that?
So through that process, in my field, I'm in early childhood education. It's a highly stressful field. And there's a lot of responsibility at the administrative and management levels, which is what I've been doing for the past 20 years. And as I've grown and increased my positions within my field, that comes with higher stress, with more responsibility, longer hours. And I was coming to a place where I really was feeling not satisfied and not happy in that direction anymore. But yet I still wanted to be connected within my field if possible. And as this job came up, I really wanted it, and the money was amazing. And when it didn't come through, I was initially disappointed. But then I realized it really wasn't about the job. It was about being able to move to California. And it really came down to that I didn't need that job to make the move. And so we took our leap of faith, and we ended up here.
In fact, we find that a minimalist lifestyle is really a peaceful and enjoyable lifestyle. If you had gotten that job, our plan was to downscale with all of our material possessions, because it just becomes stuff after a while, and to downscale, and then we were going to buy a motorhome, and we were going to live in a motorhome. So we'd be able to take off on weekends and travel and stuff, And so, but living in a motorhome, yeah, you don't have all this space. You had a 2-bedroom apartment, and I've got a 5-bedroom house, and so it's like it's time to just shrink, and in all that stuff, it's amazing how much stuff we accumulate, and it just doesn't serve us.
It really doesn't. And in fact, a lot of what I had came from my former marriage. And even the energy of stuff can have an impact on you. And what I found was that in giving away my furniture and things that I no longer needed or really desired to have in my life, it was so liberating and freeing to be able to let go of all of that and start with a clean slate. And that was actually something I asked the universe for last January. was I wanted a clean slate. I felt like I was at a place in my life where
you had no idea,
and I had no idea what that meant, but I put it out there to the universe, and the universe listened, and it started putting all the components together, and this was our clean slate.
You know, and now we find ourselves in a place that we are, you know, in a place of feeling every day that we're thriving, we're excited about things we're doing. Going back to this whole efforting idea, you know, I built 3 businesses before you and I ever met, and I made a lot of money in my last business, and even the business before that, I made good money, really good money, and you know, and I built those businesses through efforting and through struggling. In fact, you saw some of that because I still have some remnants of my last business, and you would see my efforting and struggling just to take care of things in that business that I'm still having to take care of today.
Sure.
And you saw I would get stressed out, I'd be unhappy again. It just did not feel good. And it was because of you that I really found a path I started to realize, and I started to learn and look into this, that, yeah, I grew up, we're taught that, you know, if you're going to succeed in life, whether it be financially, whether it be your relationships, if you're going to succeed, you got to work hard. You know?
Yeah, I think everybody grows up with that.
But, you know, yet, when I take a look at people that, you know, like, I'm from Seattle, so I look at Bill Gates, you know, and I look at Jeff that owns Amazon, and I don't look at just people that I have met. I mean, you and I met a guy last year that makes $500,000 a month. That was a pay cut for him.
Yes.
He took that a job at a pay cut to make $500,000 a month so that he could be around brilliant minds and be challenged, because he's about our age and he wants to intellectually be challenged a lot more. And so, you know, people that I know that have you know, made lots of money, they don't make that money because they struggle, and they don't make that money because they just get out there and they work hard like I have done for my life. And I started to really think about that, you know, and I started thinking, that's all lies. And the same thing then with our relationship, and same thing with your health and your fitness, you know, and how many people just keep struggling and struggling and struggling, and yet the harder you struggle, it just seems like it doesn't improve.
Yeah.
You know, and that is because when you're putting that focus, you're putting that energy in the negative area of your life,
Right.
and not the positive area.
Exactly.
And so same thing with your love and your sex life. You know, the people that you attract to you, you know, are you efforting and struggling, or does it just kind of happen and come along in your life? Because if you stop efforting and struggling, and you put your focus on yourself and pay attention to those 3 GPS signals, and what are they?
Your thoughts, your words, and your feelings.
And if they are negative, they are sending you away from the dream life that you want.
That's right.
If they are positive, all 3 of them in alignment, positive, then they're heading you towards the dream life that you want to live.
Exactly.
I mean, in our own life, I think about, because I did a video the other day, you know, about divorce. I mean, you were the camera woman, you know. and I think about then in our own life, you know, about the how when we met, and you know, when people meet, if you're meeting it when your life is in a place of negative energy, then guess what? Who you're meeting? You're meeting someone, if you're dating and what have you, and you're meeting someone that's in the same place of energy-wise as you are.
That's right. Right. The law of attraction brings to you a matching energy. So whatever energy level you have is what the universe brings to you. So if you're at a place where you're okay in your job, but you're unhappy about relationships, and you say things and feel things like, gosh, you know, all the good guys are taken. Well, guess what? Then the universe hears all the good guys are taken, and they're not going to send you a good guy. They're going to send you someone that is not going to be what you really want, because you're not allowing yourself to want what you really want and to believe that you can have it.
You know, and the thing that's exciting about this is that what is in your past, a second ago, a minute ago, an hour ago, or 10 days ago, or 10 years ago, when it's in your past, the only way for that to impact your current second that you are living in the present is if you drag it into that.
That's right.
Period. And so when you and I had met, I had, you and I got together on January 16th.
Yes.
And that's why we celebrated an anniversary here very recently, this week. And so January 16th, you and I got together. And on like about September 4th or September 5th, just a few months before, my wife of 33 years had said, "Mark, I'm changing direction in my life. My future doesn't include you." And I went to a really deep, depressing place of despair. But then one day, I said, "You know, I can't live this way, because I love my wife, and I was trying to create a peaceful place, and not just so we wouldn't fight or anything like that, because we've never fought in our whole relationship, you know." And so I was really trying to create a harmonious, peaceful, loving place for her, because she was still living in the house at the time in a different bedroom. And so I was trying to create that for her, but then I wasn't creating that for myself.
Right.
And one day I woke up and I realized that. And so I decided that I was going to change that. And I was going to create that for myself. I was going to take charge. And for me then, because, you know, I realized that she wasn't going to change her mind, and I wasn't going to try to change her mind if she wanted to go down a different path. And so I realized then I needed to go ahead and start putting together the life I wanted. And that day that I woke up thinking about this, I sat down in my home office with my computer, and I created a document about designing the life that I wanted in my future. And that was a life that was full of positivity, because it was my wife and I, we never fought, but we didn't really bring out the best in each other.
Right.
And so we really kind of held each other back and held each other down because of that. And so then, you know, I decided that I was going to take and create the life. And so that's all it takes for you, for our audience, is just to sit down and decide financially how you want to thrive. Decide with your health and fitness how you want to thrive. Decide with your relationships how you want to thrive. You know, I mentioned in a video the other day that about a tip that I got recently: spend 33% of your time with people at your own level, 33% of your time with people who look up to you, but 33% of your time with people who are light years ahead of you. You know, that are like 20 years ahead of you, and they're living the life, the dream life that you want. And if you're not doing that, you're spending almost all your time with people who are either at your peer level or people who look up to you. Guess what? You're not going to get anywhere to live the dream life that you want. But so for us, the energy that I had, that I created for myself, that made it so then I could attract you into my life.
It did.
And it was interesting, looking back at all this, just fascinating. Because we've been learning so much about the law of attraction, how this works, and how your energy makes so much difference, and people will attract people with the same energy. Because she had on her OkCupid profile, she says a comment that says, "There's just one kind of person that I don't like," that, or something like that. I can't remember. You didn't put it that way, but it says that you're bothered by one kind of person, and or you have one issue or something. And I kind of thought about that after reading that, and then finally it was about 2 weeks into our relationship. We're walking in the park, and so I said to you, I said that you got something on your OkCupid profile. You said that there's one thing about types of people that you don't like, and what kind of person is that? Because see, I knew myself, my self-image at that time was not where I wanted it to be. It was not soaring yet. And so I was afraid that suddenly, you know, she just hasn't seen it in me, and she would, and just give her enough time, she'd see it, and oh my gosh, then it's all going to fall apart. But what was that?
The one kind of person that I really don't want to be around is a negative person, someone who complains all the time, or even I'm very sensitive to energies, to people's energies, and so I've been in rooms of people who will be smiling and laughing and saying all the right things, but the energy that I can feel from them is very, very negative, or it's very insecure, or it's fearful. And to know that even though on the surface they may be looking all good and fine, underneath it there's a lot of pain and a lot of struggle in that person, and that's very difficult for me to be with someone who is like that, especially in a close relationship. I spent over 20 years in a marriage that was like that, and it was very devastating.
And that marriage was very abusive, where you basically, you felt like nothing of a person.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, she's you know, beautiful today. She's lost 60 pounds.
Almost 60 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on a little 5'3" frame, 60 pounds is significant.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And so you had come through, you know, years of mental anguish and abuse, and your self-image was low. But then you had taken and gathered, you'd been into counseling,
Yeah.
and you had gathered enough strength to decide, okay, I'm leaving my marriage.
Yeah, I did.
And then you were only about a year out of your marriage when we got together.
A year officially. I had spent about a year, well, no, it was almost two and a half. From the time that I told my ex-husband that I was finished and I was done with the marriage, it took us almost 2 years to divorce. And it took about a year and a half for me to start moving on in my own life during that process. So by the time I met Mark, it was almost 2.5 years from the time that I had made the decision to the time that we met.
So for me, it was a morning in December, right before we met, because we got together January 16th. So it was a morning in December when I woke up and I started saying, okay, I'm creating my life. And I'm going to create a dream life, and I'm going to move forward in that direction. And I created for myself the positive energy. I went from a place of negative energy, that when I went to bed the night before, I went from a place of being in a negative energy and having negative energy all around me to being pure positive energy. And that's all it takes for you to have that pure positive energy in your life. And you had already been on that path of pure positive energy as well. And so when we attracted each other, then we were attracting our energy levels, which were positive. And so I want to wrap up this video here in the next minute or half minute. But what has transpired? Like, I feel like that yes, there's been progress made in our relationship, but it's not from efforting. It's not from struggling. You know, and we still got a lot of progress, a lot of things we've got to work on yet. You know, but yet, you know, there's this process that the pure positive energy in our lives has created. It's like we're on this path. So, what's that path like for you? What's that path?
So for me, I've been on a journey of self-discovery. Okay.
Okay. Well, it looks like that we had the camera after 30 minutes. It stops itself, and so I guess we've gone a long ways on this. But we're wrapping up. And so we'll splice this in, right? We'll just add it to the end of this video. Right. But we're talking about that you're going to Vegas, and in another week, because you're attending a conference, so that our businesses will continue to thrive. And so that conference is very expensive, and we really don't have the money for you to stay in the hotel and so forth. Right. And so today we belong on FetLife. We belong to a community of of people, and I just put out there in a group on FetLife that are like-minded people that are is from Vegas. Introducing myself with a nice introduction, a message saying that my wife needed a place to stay, and you're going to Vegas and you got a place to stay.
I got a place to stay 3 blocks from the Strip. I can walk to the conference, and
you got a place to park your car.
It's amazing, and like-minded people that connect well with us and with who we are and the way that we think, and so it's really exciting to get to meet a new friend and have some fun.
And so this is the kind of thing that when your life becomes pure positive energy, you start to thrive, then you start to attract things, and things just seem to work out for you.
They do.
And it's a lovely feeling. You get up every day and you know that things are just going to work out.
Yep. And that and I know you've said this before as well, but every day that you have is the best day of your life because it's the only day you have.
Absolutely.
So
why not make it
the best day?